Happy Wine Wednesday.
Happy Wine Wednesday. Wow, this is Da Silva week. Mira Boucher, Canadian wine lovers. Good evening. Woo. Cheers to you. Cheers to every one of you across the country. I am thrilled. I'm super excited. I'm back home. I'm back in BC after a long week. Long but exciting and really, really cool week in Ontario. Away from my business partner. But what a productive week. And now I get back. I fly back. And the first thing that we do, we feature one of my favorite BC winery right out of the gate after I come back. We are on Da Silva Vineyards and Winery featured this week. I am super thrilled. And now we're going to talk about it for the next 45 minutes. And guess what? Guess what? Richard Da Silva, the man, the myth, the legend. Richard's going to be with us in, 10 minutes time. So how cool is that?
Very exciting. So we do have to mention something. This is the Carl and Mira Have a Cold edition of Wine Wednesday.
Yeah.
Like
so
never, I might be spitting because I had to go on antibiotics. So there you go, me being very healthy. But I'm looking forward to this wine.
I flew back from Toronto on Sunday with a massive cold. And first time ever flying, well, not ever, but first time in 2.5 years flying with no mask. And no, it did not happen for Carl. I had to fly back with my mask. I come back and now we spend the morning at the doctor and we all like ear infections and sinus infection. No COVID in here. But so we made an executive decision. We were supposed to taste live, score and rate the Legado, the brand new pre-release Legado Pinot Noir from Da Silva. But
well, exciting.
But I can barely taste anything. I definitely can smell anything. So we have made a decision that we're going to postpone that review and score from Da Silva Legado. It's the top line of Da Silva. We're going to do that on Thanksgiving. See, I didn't say Easter. How good I'm there. Wow. Antibiotic are kicking in.
We were pairing wines. He's like, "Oh, this one goes really well with Easter stuff." Sometimes I'm like,
anyway, turkey, right? Turkey dinner. So, so yeah. So
Pierre says Quebec is the best city.
You know what, Pierre? OK, let's move in French for a bit, OK? Un beau bonjour à tout le monde en français, à tous nos amateurs de vin francophones à travers le pays. Les gens du Québec, définitivement la belle ville de Québec où c'est que j'ai passé un beau 10 ans de ma vie. Oui, une des plus belles villes au pays. Pierre, je suis d'accord avec toi. Sur la ville de Québec, tous nos amateurs de vin francophones de la belle région de Québec, un beau bonjour. Les gens de la région de l'Estrie, les Bois-Francs. On n'oublie pas Victoriaville et les Bois-Francs parce que maman reste là-bas. Fait que, tu sais, on n'oublie jamais ça. Les gens du Nouveau-Brunswick, un paquet de membres au Nouveau-Brunswick qui parlent français. On a aussi, je parlais ce matin avec des gens de Terrasse, BC, en français, Madame Desjardins, une petite communauté francophone là-bas qui commande du vin de l'Ontario, là, tu sais. C'est ça qu'on fait avec Carl's Wine Club. On envoie du vin partout au pays, en français, en anglais, en wine. Fait que je veux dire un beau bonjour à tout le monde. Pierre, tes chums, toute la gang à Québec, un beau bonjour. Ça fait plaisir de vous voir. On reçoit Richard Da Silva, le vigneron à Da Silva Vineyards and Winery plus tard dans 5 minutes. Fait que restez avec nous autres. On va jaser avec Richard. Yeah, there you go. Or is the French? So,
do you know what? I'm starting to, my mouth is watering because I thought, well, what can we share about Da Silva? And one of the cool things is pretty much every time we go there, we try to eat at their restaurant, which is outstanding, and pair their wines. So coming up.
Yeah, you know, come on. Like there's some spot, like everywhere you live, you always have some of your favorite, right? Like everywhere you go, you find your niche. Like it was the same thing in Calgary with us, but like wherever you live, you always find your niche. For us, it became part of our life. in the last 2 years, since we settled in the Okanagan, even if it was like West Kelowna or now Summerland, Da Silva Winery and the kitchen at Da Silva, like the kitchen has become one of our favorite places to go. Every time we have people in town and we want to do a little something special, guess what? We know where we go. We know that we're going to be well taken care of at the kitchen, and we know that if we bring our members or our friends to taste wine at Da Silva, no one ever been disappointed. So this is part of our environment. You know, sometimes like like you bring people, you don't know what to expect, and like you leave it in other people's hand. No, we know. We took control of that because we take our people to our favorite spot, and this is one of it. And sometimes you love talking wine with certain people, and that's what happened between me and Richard the first time we met. And I just love sit down, taste wine, and chat wine with that guy. He has a knowledge, a style of knowledge that pretty much no one has in the valley. Sometimes we'll talk about winemakers. They're uber technical. They're talking about winemaking stuff. No, with Richard, we're talking about the dirt. We're talking about vineyards. And he is the true definition of vigneron. And for people who like the vigneron, that's a term that they use a lot in Burgundy, right? The gentleman, the farmer who grow the grape and make the wine and bottle and do the whole thing, that's the vigneron. That, like, not a grape grower or not a wine, no. The all-in concept of this from start to finish, from the vines to the bottle, that's the vigneron. And Richard is that's exactly who he is. So, yeah, I'm excited to chat with him. We're going to talk about a bunch of stuff. I want to talk to him about like the vintage coming out. It's harvest. We're right in harvest time here. We are in the midst of harvest. Like Chardonnays are coming off this is a great time here because Chardonnays are coming off the vines. In Ontario, our friends at Rennie, Graham Rennie and his team brought the Chardonnay grapes at the crush, and now they're gonna, like, the Christine 2022 is going to be pressed very soon. So all of that, like, we know that the Leaning Post from the Grimsby Hillside Vineyard, they lost a lot of grapes at Grimsby Hillside, but still some key parcels. So there's a big difference between Ontario harvest this year versus BC harvest. It seems like BC is turning out to be pretty darn good.
And we were talking recently, Carl, about doing a harvest report for the first time, like getting a bunch of winemakers together on our live and talking about harvest. Do you think we should do that like across the country and have like the Ontario people and the BC people, or should we do like 2 episodes?
I think it's even cooler to have the winemakers from Ontario and BC on the same call, so they can bounce back each other, right? How cool would it be to have Brian Schmidt and Richard Da Silva talking together, or Lou Puglisi and, I don't know, Melissa Schmidt from Oliver? Like that would be really, really cool. So that's what I'm thinking a little bit more. Let's wait into into November when the reds are coming off. Obviously, now we're having the Pinots are coming off, the Gammets are coming off, but we're far from to be ready to go with the Malbecs, the Syrahs, and even the Merlots and Cap Franc. So let's hold on to that. Now it's exciting. The whites are coming off the vines. I know that Richard's already picked his Muscat. I think the Viognier is coming out next week or this weekend. You might have a live from Carl's Wine Club, live from the Silva Crush Pad this weekend. I have a kind of a feeling.
Hey, and you could taste the Legado then. Look, Richard is in the green room. Should we bring him in?
I don't know. Should we let him sit there a little bit? Let him marinate a little bit? I think he's not that kind of guy, right? Come on, let's bring him in.
Looks ready. Okay, here we go. Hey, Richard.
Hi, everyone. How's it going?
My man.
Maria.
Like I always say, just living the dream, they always say, right?
in the middle of harvest. Yeah, that's probably
it's
the challenging part of the dream, hey?
Yeah, no, well, thank you guys for having me on, and yeah, I think it's the quiet before the storm, so we're kind of
yeah, well, we appreciate you taking a bit of time out to.
I know you're a busy man. I know you're all over the place, up and down the valley, tasting grapes, checking on bricks, making sure that all of the grapes are coming up the right bricks. So, hey, well, first and foremost, thanks for joining me. I think like there's so much to talk about. This part, Da Silva Vineyards and Winery were established. I think you guys are started the winery, let's say what, 6 years ago or something like that. But
2006, actually, my wife and I was our first vintage, and but the location that you know as Da Silva now was started in 2000. We started building that in 2010.
Okay, 2010, the new location, that location. Okay, I was far off with my 6-7 year story about that.
No,
But it goes far beyond that, and that's why I want to start with the Silva family has deep roots in the valley. We go back all the way to the 50s. So tell us a little bit about the family heritage, how everything started around here.
Yeah, a cool little bit of information a lot of people don't know is that the farming and agricultural industry in the Okanagan was built on the Portuguese labor force that came over from Portugal on a federal government program to bring over workers. And the Vino Tinto, there you go, the homage to the family. And so Portuguese, there was a push by the federal government in the late 40s, early 1950s. They needed people to come in to do work. And the Portuguese answered the call. And so the family first moved here. They were the first 6 couples to land on the train station here in Penticton in 1955. So yeah, the history goes back quite a long ways. And but the family, yeah, there you go. The picture there, you'll see the lady on the right-hand side, my Aunt Claire. That's her brother beside her, my grandfather, Jose Avila, my cousin, John Borba, and my other aunt. Yeah, that's an interesting photo. That's taken on the Naramata bench. Oh, that's got to be circa late 1950s, early 60s, I think.
That is cool. That is real cool. Good find, Mira.
Yeah, it's a lot of history there. That photo brings back memories, and they've all since now passed away. And it's always, I always feel a bit of the weight of carrying the family legacy now, because I'm now that third generation is now carrying that history for the family here now. But yeah, it's an interesting story. We bought the first farm in 1959, and it was on the Naramata bench, but the family moved to Oliver in Oswego in the early 1960s, 62, 63, incidentally where I was born. And I still have many family members that are that live there. We've had got great history with some of the revered vineyards in the South Okanagan were farmed by my family at one time. And so there's a long history of sustenance farmers. And I think that's the difference, that my family, it wasn't a vanity project. Our family came here to escape fascist government of Portugal at the time under Salazar, and moved here to better their family and give them a future. And the family took that advantage of that and made their roots here. But it was a very challenging time, and a lot of people, we see the glamour that's wine today. We see the shiny buildings and the shiny architecture and shiny wine labels. But of the 12 aunts and uncles that moved here, all 4 grandparents that moved here, most of them died poor and broken. People forget that it's farming. It was a challenge to make a livelihood farming here. It was a cool climate, marginal region to grow fruit back in those days. It's a lot colder than it is today. And I always have a sense of deep respect and reverence for the work and the dedication the family did to create the opportunity that I have today to be here to continue that. And so, yeah, here we are today, and hopefully continuing the legacy of Da Silva, representing the family's history and agriculture in this region.
But Richard, I think since when did the grape farming on its own started from your family? Because I believe that well, there was table grape for a while, and also lots of hybrids. And the German in the 80s or late 70s brought a bunch of the Sigaribi and all of these German type of. When exactly the family, the Silva family, started to go into the grape business?
Yeah, you know what? Monocropping wasn't a thing. It's something that people don't when you're a sustenance farmer, you grew grapes in the least fertile piece of land you had. You grew grapes for your wine, for your religious, for your food, and to go with your meals. But you used your prime farmland to grow food items. And so there was never really a monocropping culture within the Portuguese community that farmed here. Most of us had grapes, fruit, ground crops, peppers, tomatoes, onions, and on the side scrub land where you couldn't grow something else to sustain your family on, you planted your grapes. And if you look at Europe, that's some of the most revered vineyard sites in Europe were planted using that philosophy. Why would you take fertile, great land that would be used to sustain your family with food and put grapes there? Use the hillside or use these kind of marginal pieces of land that weren't nutritious and plant your grapes there. And that's exactly what my family did. So we did poultry, we did soft fruits, we did ground crop, we did grapes, we did all means of farming. It was a full sustenance livelihood off of farming. And so monocropping as we see it today was not really a thing yet. There were some big commercial producers where my family worked as immigrant laborers, the Shannon Pacific and Monashi Vineyards on a Black Sage bench, for example, that were big swaths of land that were growing just grapes. But that was still not yet happening yet from a small sustenance farmer side of things.
That's interesting. And when you mentioned like hillside and all of that, like that's with the knowledge that we have today. If we want to plant like vineyards, we're going to produce great wine. That's where we're looking for now, right? Like fast forward 50 years later, that's what the knowledge of that's where it brings us.
Absolutely. Some of my, we have some exciting new vineyard plans that we're putting in that are using that philosophy. They get some of the best drainage, some of the best aspect. It's not, this isn't like new discovery. This has been done for hundreds and thousands of years in the old world, and we're just in Portugal in the Douro Valley and just incorporating some of that knowledge here and carrying on that philosophy here in our terroir. So yeah, it's a constant evolution. I always tell people that my best wines are yet to be made. The best vineyard sites are yet to be grown. We're a new young wine region. We have generations of learning to go through, but I'm glad to be in the beginning of that journey and that story today. So,
and that's so that we're a young wine region, but we had some pretty interesting development in the last couple of years, where now we're seeing that our VQA system, like announcing all of these new sub appellation. I know it's not like many people. It's controversial because
it's interesting because for me, we've been pioneering these sub GIs on our bottles before many of those GIs ever existed. In fact, we were a constant battle with the authority when doing wines, because we knew that those sub-GI regions were a GI. It was very evident to us. But I don't think the industry wasn't there. It didn't fit the narrative of the industry at the time. And so dating back to 2007, we already were using these sub-GI names even though they didn't exist yet. And we're in constant butting heads with the authority on that, because I said my job is to produce wine of a place. That is my passion. That is the destiny for BC, is to create premium, sub-premium wines. And history tells us that it needs to be wine of a place. And if you're going to be talking about wine of a place, what is that place? What makes it unique? And if you've been farming here and having to sustain your family from that, you're going to know those details, because you know where to grow stuff. And so, yeah, it was frustrating for me, because there was lots of some initial wineries were always, they didn't want to have to conform to that. But I had always very comfortable with that, because to me, I have no problem with my winery being on the Naramata bench. And if I have grapes from my vineyards on the Naramata bench, putting Naramata bench on the wine. But if it comes from the Oliver Central Moraine, which is not a GI, by the way, it will become one day, or the Southeast Bench, which will become another GI, absolutely. And I'm pretty sure Oculus and some of these people will probably push. Good friends of mine at Poplar Grove will probably help push that agenda, because that GI, that sub-region is unique. And those are on my bottle. I've had to play with the wording, with I would call it location on the label, because the minute I said region, they, all the authority got, all up in a tiff about the whole thing. But for me, it is the pivotal. Wine is subjective. You may or may not like the wine, but what's not subjective is where it's grown and the resulting wines from that terroir. And for me, that is the underlying principle and pillar to what we do at Da Silva. It's about wine of the place, and what about that place affects the wine to what you're drinking in the glass. So
do you think that whole process of sub-GI and subdividing where we grow our grape, do you think it's helped to build our reputation, to build our stability out there? Do you think it's that need, like I kind of feel like it's something that has to be done?
I think the end of the day is that it's a tough one, because I think that the situation is that to someone from the outside looking at what we're doing here today, it seems a bit. It's like this kaleidoscope of terroirs, a kaleidoscope of grapes, and this kind of this collage of unique stuff going on, right? But I think at the end of the day, though, history proves that terroir is very important. And I think that what we're trying to do at Da Silva, is it the end all be all? Is creating GIs the most important thing? I don't think so. But I think it's important that if you want to know where your wine comes from or where it grows, that's important. Like, if you want to know where your food is grown, you want to know that it's local, you want to know why the wine in your glass tastes the way it does, then GI is important. It fills in the story. If that makes sense. So,
I totally agree. And it's a part of the way that we're growing as a wine country and wine regions, right? Just understanding what's so special, what's so different. GIs.
Yeah,
you got kicked out upstairs, so
I got kicked out of my of my zone up there. So yeah, I'm here.
Well, a lifetime of stories to talk about, so we can fill in the space.
Yay.
Okay.
You know what? I have to say, like, I miss Twyla. I know that she's away right now. I brought up this picture of her and your doggies.
Yes, they're over there watching me right now. So
there you go. And I wanted to give people some context. Like, we're talking about the GI, what's GI stand for?
Geographical identification.
Right.
Yep.
And to me, yes, it's important. I want to know, but it's more about like feeling the place. Like, I love going there. So, I mean, this is one of the first times we went, and here's another time.
Oh, there's a nice shot. Yeah,
right?
It's beautiful. We live in a slice of paradise for sure. Yeah, I think it all adds to the mosaic of what we're doing here. The stories, the farm. That's not my helicopter, by the way.
That's one of the helicopters who ruined our lunch that day. Couldn't hear each other.
Your contact information because my wife and I we were paying attention. We don't no longer actually we had a helicopter come in today, but we no longer do the helicopter tours for that reason. That region is going to be used for our outdoor picnic area and tastings area now. So it's it's a bit disruptive, but I think Twyla and I, us starting is just her and I. I think that's a unique. I think we're one of a last of a kind. I think it's really impossible now to have if you and your partner were wanting to come and buy vineyard land and do wine here. It is now very difficult to do that. It's very, very expensive. As your listeners may or may not know, we're sitting on some of the most expensive vineyard land in the world now. It is, land upwards of $500,000 for an acre of land. Our destiny here is to make, we're not here to make vin de table. The land here is very small, it's very precious. The GIs we have and the soil types, they fit the narrative of creating wines that you wish to have on, that involves another level of thought behind them. So it's interesting times in our industry for sure. So, but
it's not as easy as just showing up and saying, let's work up towards it. It's quite the thing to
know
get
that
into
romance, the romance of having a vineyard and making wine, your own wine label will make millions of dollars, honey. Are you ready for that? Yeah, right?
No.
I think for us, the good thing, not the good things, the reality with Da Silva is that we didn't come from that mindset. Our family had been farming here for, 7 decades, nearly 70 years. Nobody made bank farming, but that's not how that worked. And for us, we were well equipped mentally for the reality and the rigors of what farming, because wine is a farm product. We can add all sorts of verbiage to it and all sorts of fancy labels and artwork and marketing spin to it. But at the end of the day, it's a humble product of a piece of dirt, and it's important that we don't lose sight of that. It is and we're at the mercy of so many variables, like this year with our harvest this year, and bad weather, economic situation, whatever the deal is. We're farming is always at the spear edge of feeling the brunt of whatever it is that's going on out there, and we're very attuned to that, my wife and I, because it's just us. We have no partners. It's just her and I, and it makes it for very challenging to in a small winery like ours to prepare yourself for calamities from nature and all sorts of things. So it's I've learned to be very pragmatic this year. A lot of my fellow wineries and winemakers were running around with their hair on fire, and it was just it's a disaster. And I've always been a bit more pragmatic about it. I think at the end of the day, I don't make a call until the wine is in the barrel, so I learned to just chill out and just let's roll with it and see what happens. And you need to be like that if you're farming. And my parents and my family background prepared me well for that reality. So,
and I think that wisdom absolutely served you like to the T this year, because we had a horrible May and June. It is so wet and it is so cold and everything was behind. You talk to people like, we're 6 weeks behind. We're gonna harvest grape at Christmas, and like the panic, eh? But Mother Nature turned around. We had a glorious July, glorious August, and now the fall that we're having It's just absolutely amazing. So now things are catching up, and I'm hearing some of the crops are coming to the crush pad, especially for whites, that are absolutely fantastic. So
I think that the good thing about this vintage is going to be that, you know, I had friends that were running around, oh my God, we're going to dump all the clusters and out there crop thinning and running around, you know, like I said, with their hair on fire. And I just said, no, I'm leaving it. I'm not touching anything. I got good, healthy fruit. Let's see what happens. And at the end of the day, this vintage will play out to be, it's one of those rare vintages where it's a winemaker and a farmer vintage, right? It's knowing where those grapes should be planted. And this is the thing where BC still has some learning pain in its learning journey yet, is really like, I don't care if you enjoy drinking Cabernet Sauvignon, you don't plant it on your site if it's not meant for Cabernet Sauvignon. Like, you plant what your site should have on it. And BC still has a bit of that learning curve to happen yet. And so, I know some gremlin back there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know where that came from.
Yeah. So what we do is, you know, when you have the best regions and sub-regions paired with the right varieties, your oscillations, vintage to vintage, are a lot more shallow, because the extremes in that fruit is a lot less. Whereas if you have those grape varieties planted in marginal regions for those grape varieties, you can have a big swing. You can have a great year, or you can have a really shitty year, and it's very rarely in between. And so this year, it's going to be, my call for the vintage is going to be elegant white wines, a lot of finesse, lower alcohol, which I enjoy. I'm getting away from, you know, big hot bombs that we can do.
That we had for 2021. That was the challenge of 2021 and also 2020, to manage these level of alcohol, especially 2021.
Yeah, and so how that affects to your viewer, when you have a grape variety that you have planted in a site that's too warm for that variety, it's not paired right, you're really going to have issues with consistency and heat. So if you want to have a balanced Chenin Blanc, if you want to have a balanced Chardonnay, having it in the right site, doesn't matter what the year vintage is like, there will be a balance, if that makes sense. So hopefully that helps answer that. So I think this year's call for the vintage is finesse, elegance, and so far I'm not sweating it right now. I'm okay with what's going on. So
That's awesome.
That's exciting. And so now, what intrigues me the most when I talk about Da Silva, it's about it. Jeez. Where's that coming from? Just wow. What for me?
It doesn't sound that bad on this side, so don't worry about it.
Jesus Christ. It's about the sites. It's about the Cabana Vineyard. It's about the Outwash Vineyard. It's about why Richard has chosen the very specific site for his Malbec. Where's Richard's Syrah coming from, right? And for the reason and the why of that. For us from the industry, it's kind of obvious that from Oliver Osoyoos, that's where, but from our people out east, for people who are following us, we have a bunch of people from Toronto tonight who are online, or people from Quebec. It's not as obvious. So can you explain a little bit what's the difference between the Naramata Bench to all the way down to Osoyoos, where we talk about 35, 40-minute drive, but an extreme difference with the result?
So I mean, this would be something that one would do a dissertation for a PhD in terroir.
You have 2 minutes.
Not going to happen in 2 minutes. But I will say this, that to your viewers, they may not know this, is 40 plus distinct terroirs, or like soil terroir types in the Okanagan Valley. due to glaciation. It is very, very, very unique here. What is going on in the Okanagan exists nowhere else in the world.
Plain and simple, nowhere else in the world.
And what does that mean, though? So on the ground, that means due to glaciation here and geological events, we have a literally, this mosaic of soils and types of rocks and soil structures throughout the valley with different aspects. And each of those have very, very distinctly unique characteristics to them. This is unique to here. And so if you haven't farmed here, even in Oliver, you can generalize and say that Oliver south to Osoyoos, you can grow big reds. But that is almost far too general, because in Oliver, there is a half a dozen unique sub-regions in there that in themselves are extremely different. And so when people say, well, what's BC's signature grape? I get that asked all the time.
Yeah.
And I learned now to be a bit more politically correct about it. But I'm just like, I know it comes from a lack of knowledge of what the reality is in the Okanagan. And so Da Silva and our family's history of farming both grapes and soft fruits have a really deep understanding of what that means in translating to fruit. And in the South Okanagan specifically, if you're talking about Malbec, think of Syrah, you think of the Rhone, Southern Rhone, the soils in Southern Rhone. That temperature, those extreme heat temperatures in those kind of regions in France. And we start to look at the similarities in some other regions, not trying to be like them, but using them as sort of like a bit of a roadmap. It becomes very obvious to those that have been farming here for a long time that you know where they should go. So Malbec grows very well here in the right soil, in the right region within Oliver. Cap Franc, fantastic, world-class. Cap Sauv, Syrah. When paired to those right areas and small benches and outcrops of land. And so the Syrah that we grow, for example, is grown on the Golden Mile on an alluvial fan, the Testalinda Creek fan. It's all round, rock, very similar to you find in the Rhone Valley. Anywhere from rocks this to anything in between. Super rocky, and so Syrah thrives in that kind of soil type. The Malbec, where we grow it in Osoyoos, is in a bottomless sand, an old beach to the Osoyoos Lake, and we have never found the bottom to where the sand goes, but it goes far further than my backhoe would dig. But so that creates unique growing characteristics to the Malbec and fantastic flavors to that. So all those, to those who collect wine and are serious about wine and want to get into it on another level, the Okanagan provides a master class of learning the effect of terroir and what they're drinking in their glass. Mm-hmm. And I think to those people who want to get into that, to the right producers that are doing wine of a place, you could spend a lifetime here and still know nothing about the soil types in the Okanagan. And I'm still learning. I still get my ass handed to me the odd time with planting the wrong thing somewhere. I think it's obvious, but then it's not so obvious, and I got to go back to the drawing board again. So
that's fascinating. What did you say, Richard, earlier? It's 40 different types of soils, or 40 different
terroirs in the Okanagan. 40 plus. I'm not quite certain the final number on it, but it's a lot. Like if we're looking at the vineyard outside of my place here, this 5-acre plot has two very distinct soil types on it: shattered shale to alluvial like gravel soils in one corner to some clay loam. If we're at the winery site across the road here from us, we have everything from quartz sand, which is unique to that property. I do not know of anywhere else that has quartz sand around here.
Quartz sand? Like
quartz.
Quartz. Yeah.
Whoa,
the
cool.
Chenin Blanc grows on. But as part of an old kettle lake, for those of you that took geology, remember those are like formed by erratics off the front end of glaciers. So those glaciation events really affected the lay of the land here and the soils and what you can grow where. And like I have distinct on 10-acre block, distinct 3 or 4 different sub-regions within my own 10-acre block, which is very unique.
Extremely.
I think that's the effect of the glacier when the McIntyre blew off and like the glacier went all the way down. Everything like different patches were left behind. That's what created that very unique formation all over the place, right?
That is one of them. There was many of those glaciation periods. That's the thing that people talk about as if it's a singular event. But there was multiple ice ages and multiple events that affected the land we're on today. And in fact, a lot of people don't know that the Okanagan Lake is a fault line, and that the rock on the west side of the lake here is millions of years younger than the rock on the other side. And then if I look out my window over here, Munson Mountain is the cone of an extinct volcano that got sheared off, and its source is about 3 kilometers east of me here.
Wow. So that's where, if you ever drive through, you'll see the big Penticton, just like the Hollywood sign. It says Penticton on the top of Munson Mountain.
Yeah, that's a core of an extinct volcano.
Huh.
And so there's so much, like you can't pair to one event. You'll hear that often where people talk about the glacier thing, and that's certainly very important, that event. But that's one of many that have affected the lay of the land here, and it makes for very, very, very unique growing characteristics here.
Totally. And we often get, like, for instance, the salinity, like the saltiness on the lips. And it was Daniel Bontran that was telling us that's probably from the volcanic soils, which now makes sense. Munson Mountain, and again, probably way older than the glacier events, right?
Yeah, I mean, that 10,000, 15,000 years ago, stuff like that. So yeah, it's a massive class for those who care about terroir. You come to the Okanagan, you'll definitely get your fill of learning that. So yeah.
Well,
and to make it the triple complexity here, the Naramata Bench on its own, where the winery is located, you get on all of that like big melting pot of complexity. You have probably the most complex bag of all is the Naramata Bench, exactly where you are located.
Well, where our property is, it is quite, because it's one of the only extinct kettle lake formations that are on the Naramata Bench, and I'll let your viewers search that on their Google if they want. But that is unique to the property that we're on, the Hidden Hollow Vineyard. But I think we're on the east side of the bank of that ancient, massive lake structure that was here 10,000 years ago, and so you'll get these clay soils up to the road. And then on the east side of the road, you get this lot of the glacial till that exists, that are, again, completely different soil structure than the west side of the road, which is, to most people, it's like, what do you mean? It's like one area. It's like, no, it's not one area. You got a farm here, you'll understand it's not. So hopefully I didn't lose your listeners with the dissertation on terroir. So
I love it.
Go ahead, Mira.
You can tell. Like, I was just going to say, here we are with some of our members and friends here at the winery not too long ago. And you guys actually taste your wines in different glasses. So when a winery does that, because you've tested them and you know that certain wines will work better in different glasses. When a winery does that, it just shows me the level of care and love and attention that you
Attention to details. Attention to details. And
I think that just reflects what you're doing in the winemaking too. I would think.
Yeah, I always tell people, I always find, and I'm sure that the chagrin of some of my winemaking friends out there, but the winemakers to me are better blowhards. To me, it's really about place. And so if you look at our labels, we've gone to great lengths to very precisely identify where your bottle is growing. We're the only winery that geotags exactly where the bottle, the longitude, latitude of where that bottle was harvested from.
I
The
didn't know
only
that.
winery that I know of anywhere in North America that does that. And so every single one of our bottles from our Venado vineyard line is geotagged to the longitude, latitude of where that bottle grew.
Like
that's the kind of
these
precision
labels, right? Is that your
In the
Venados?
back, on the back label, you'll see you have.
Yeah,
Very
the grower information. We're really about talking about, it's always easy in these scenarios to talk about how great an owner is or a winemaker, but to me, I'm one member of a team, and my role is to support the hard work that my growers that I work with, including, I happen to have 3 of the vineyards myself, but the rest of the cooperative of growers I work with, that is more important to me than necessarily my role. It's where this fruit comes from and how it's grown and why it grows the way it does, to me, is what's most important. And so when you go to the tasting room, you see that every wine has a wine-specific Riedel tasting glass, varietal-specific tasting glass. And that to us goes, to the amount of detail that we believe in, that it takes to make super premium wine. So hopefully that, you guys had some glasses already taken away, I guess, even the table. You were down to your last couple there. So.
we keep doing that at your place there. Like these are rare pictures of the food at the kitchen, because normally we remember to take a picture and it's like half eaten, right?
Well, a little bit of a tidbit for your listeners too is we're now the longest running, or one of the longest running winery chef collaborations in BC winery history.
Yeah.
So that's it's a fantastic partnership. We have a very similar pragmatic vision of you can create world-class wine and world-class food without being a pompous jackass. I think that
and I love that. We love that. Like Carl's led some of the top-rated restaurants in the country, and we went to the kitchen there, and he said this could have a Michelin star if it wanted. Like, it is so freaking good.
We talked about that today at lunchtime. We're talking about that because they're entering the Michelin into Canada. I don't know if you guys heard that.
What's that?
The Michelin's coming to Canada.
Yeah, they're coming. Yeah, they're coming in. I read about that a couple months ago.
I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing, but the jury's out on that. But guys, it's I love talking about that story. I think what listeners will hopefully glean from that is that we're very passionate about wines of a place. We're very passionate about being very transparent about what we're doing, and we're making wine for those that are looking for the next level in their wine journey, and hopefully that resonates with everyone. And I'm very glad that you guys had me on here today to talk about our story.
It sure does resonate with us, and I'm sure you'll resonate with the. There you go. One of them is alive. Good job. Hey, before I let you go, there's one thing to me who absolutely describe who you are, absolutely describe the project and the respect for the land that what you guys are doing. Is you mentioned to me earlier when we met earlier this year about your vineyard crew. You've been working with the exact same vineyard crew for how long now? And this, to me, it's such a true reflection of who you are and what Da Silva is all about.
I think it's a reflection of the team as a whole and us being able to work together. So since 2004, we've had the same vineyard crew with me, which is it's unheard of in our industry for sure. It's very transient.
We saw them unloading some vines when we were there, I think in March or so.
Yeah, new plantings there. Yeah,
these are the little Pinots, I guess, hey?
Yeah, for a new planting that we did, we planted at the Hidden Hall this year. Yeah, I'm very lucky that way. I think for me, it's I'm blessed with the team that we have. I think it is a team effort. I think a lot of wineries, the new world, sometimes not necessarily this region, but we can talk about California or some other people where sometimes they tend to want to make it about a personality. But these projects are really about a team of people that believe in a vision. And I think, to me, it's about farming, and the wine you're buying from us is supporting sustenance farmers. These aren't people who are investment bankers, and they have anything against that per se, but these aren't investment personnel. These are people that it's their only means of livelihood. They rely on this to put food on their table. That is what my wife and I do here, my staff, and that's why we have a commitment to them that way, because none of them are doing this necessarily for the passion of the thing necessarily. They're doing this because it's their livelihood. And so that's a very different discussion in the world of wine now. When you're doing something like this, because it's your means of feeding your family, it brings a different soul to the wine. I think that's one of the things that I would say about our wine that's unique is, wine is subjective. You may or may not like the wine, but it does have a soul to it that portrays that in it. And so hopefully that resonates with people. And I'm always up for a discussion. If everybody wants to get into my good grandfather there, I do have a wine coming out using his name, Jose, which will be our port. We're I think one of the only wineries in North America making port.
Wow.
From 100% Portuguese varieties.
Wow. Cool.
So I'm very, my grandfather was very important. My grandmother, all four of them that came here, brings back a lot of memories. So I have a lot of respect for them. I'm here today because of their hard work. So
amazing.
Thank you guys for the opportunity. It's been a pleasure.
Richard, thank you so much. These are like unforgettable moment. I just love that conversation. We haven't talked about the wine, but I think for talking about the land, it just gets me. I'll talk about the wine later on. Everyone has the reviews and all that. All 90 points or plus. You have 392 points in that. We have a fantastic pack. 9 different bottles available this week with Da Silva.
And many of them pre-releases. There's one Wine Club only exclusive wine. Shannon is on. She's one of your members, longtime member. And I know you guys treat your members really well. It's awesome. So
thank you.
We feel privileged to get a little glimpse into that world as well. So thank you.
Go get some sleep. There's another big day tomorrow. And let me know. I'll swing by at some point, either before the end of the week or this weekend. I want to see some crush. I want to see some grapes in process, and we're gonna make a little bit more content that we're gonna send to the members.
And also, when Carl gets his sense of smell and taste back, hopefully like tomorrow.
Yeah, I did open that Pinot Noir together. Hello, Joanna. Some people out there that thanks people for all the great folks that are watching today. That's fantastic. It means a lot to Twyla and I. If you guys all show up here, I'll put you to work. Don't worry about it. Everybody equal treatment out here. Everybody gets to work. That's the way it goes.
That's it. Enjoy your evening, my friend. We'll chat later this week. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much, Richard.
Bye.
Cheers.
That's why we do what we do. It's for these kind of moments. These kinds of moments are so precious and so special.
Very special.
How cool is that?
Really cool.
How cool is that?
I think he'd open the Legado.
I know he did.
Shit.
I feel awful.
We better go over there and help him with that.
Yeah.
Even if you can't taste that well right now with your flu.
Yeah. But hey, you guys tell me if you learned as much as I did again today, but just hearing about the philosophy of Da Silva is just so unique, and unique in a sense of a new world winery, right? And if you backtrack what they've been doing in Spain and in Portugal and some region of Italy and France for so long, that's what farmers, that's what vignerons are doing. That's the soul of a winery, where the grapes grow and planting the right grapes at the right place to harvest the fruits of their labors and the perfect sense of a place and the perfect sense of a vintage. That's what Richard do. And like there's definitely not enough of them in our industry. But wow, how refreshing it is. It was I've been schooled today, like in term of the geology, in term of history and all that. It's just wow, what an encyclopedia. Thanks, Richard, for everything. Wow.
Super cool.
Super cool. Term of wines. Let's talk a
Tell
little
us
bit
more about these. 'Cause,
Well,
like, we're talking diversity, and that's one of the things we were talking about with the wines.
yeah,
Like,
absolutely.
there's the elegant wines. There's the bold, like
Bold.
this
Some of
one.
the wines are like
Nice and juicy.
oh
and
yeah.
bold. We might as well start because he's got like 3 levels. There's the table wines, the Vino Tinto, and the Vino Branco.
Yeah,
right?
these are
This is
field
the Vino
blend.
Tinto.
Yeah, a little bit more like traditional Portuguese style. We're talking about field blend. Should be easy drinking. The table wine, right? This for me, that's what I posted this morning. Like when I hear that there's a splash of Syrah in my Bordeaux blend, I get excited. I get really freaking excited, and I think that we should see that more from BC because we produce such great quality of Syrah. So yeah, I love that. It's juicy. It's a little rustic in the mid palate, but for like that price, $25, with a great reflection of the south of Okanagan, juicy. The tannin are there. Like if you like something like really mellow and like no, this has personality and this has energy in there. I love that. Same thing for his white counterpart, the Vino Branco. It's fresh, it's refreshing. There's that salinity. There's that bright acid. So yeah, I love these 2 field blend. I love the $25 price point. These are fantastic. And now we jump into the second line. This is the core of the portfolio, where mostly what we do this week, it's mostly single varietal wine. 2018. Well, let's do with the white. We have the Chardonnay for the white. Come on, I can do a Da Silva wine, a Da Silva feature without featuring a Chardonnay. I can't.
So for those of you that might recall or don't know, we tasted 54 wines over the course of Chardonnay week. It turned into 54 Canadian Chardonnays side by side. We did it not once, not twice, but I think 3 times.
3 times. And the top wine, number 1 out of 54 across the country, was the Legado, the Da Silva Legado. So from what we have here, that's the 2021. This is the Legado is the big brother. The 2016, one of the best Chardonnay that BC produced in many, many years. Listen, people will talk about, Checkmate makes so many like batter Chardonnay. Checkmate this, checkmate that. Guess what? That's where the grapes are coming from, most part. Okay,
very similar areas. Yeah.
But the Legado Chardonnay is something unique. There's very little left at the winery. But so this one, the 2021, it's not anywhere on their website. Pre-release for Carl's Wine Club. I give it a 91 plus, if I'm not mistaken.
I'll tell you right.
I believe it's 91 plus. But
you gave it 91 plus.
91 plus. So from the Outwash Vineyard, one with like soft, it's rich, it's tropical, and there's a spicy finish in there. Bunch of nutmegs, like I would say like the toasted spice, but even white pepper and lots of white pepper. So yeah, this is classic 2021 vintage because that's a little higher alcohol. That was the Heat Dome vintage out there, and I really love that 2021 Chard. We also have the Isabella, the sparkling, and I had a conversation with Richard. Richard said, "Carl, I had that great sparkling from our home vineyard. It's Muscat and Riesling. You should taste that." And I was not planning of putting a sparkling in that offer. I had I had a specific idea of where I wanted to go. And after I tasted the Isabella with him one of the morning at the winery, before everyone got to the winery, it was like 9 a.m. and you pop the bubbles out. And I was like, okay, there's not a whole lot of Muscat Riesling sparkling who showcase so well where the wine is coming from. And I just love that wine. So it's like, yeah, it's going into our feature. No doubt about that. So yeah.
So good.
Which one was
that one here? Like,
yeah, the Isabella?
The Isabella. Is this? No.
Yep. There you go.
There we go.
There you go. And it's cool because it's Richard Da Silva's method. It says Frizzante on the label, but it's in between the Frizzante and the Charmat. Really unique. He has a nice collaboration, and I just love the result. The bubbles are fine. The bubble lasts. They don't just pop out in your mouth and like crazy madness. No, there's a finesse into that, and the base juice. It's lemon, it's zippy, it's green apple. So really enjoy that.
That's amazing. I loved it. I'm liking sparkling more and more lately when it's well done, and this one was just gorgeous. I loved it.
Absolutely.
Pop bottle closure.
Yep.
But you can still savor it, Mike.
Absolutely. Oh, and so we have a good closure, and I was a week and a half after that bottle was open. It was still a third in the fridge. And she called me. I was in Ontario with you, Mike Laplante. And Mira said, "Hey, do you think it's still good?" I said, "Well, I don't think so. It's been in there for a week and a half." So she sent me a picture a couple of minutes after, the glass still fizzing and all that.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I guess we had a good closure on that thing. It was still fizzy and still tasted great. And but I couldn't drink it all, so I did use it for cooking that night. I put it in my chicken roast. It was really good.
There you go. And we also have from the 2018 vintage, we have the Merlot, the Cap Franc, and the Malbec. These three reds, these three are 92 or 93 or 92 plus. Three fantastic, I would say, wine with, like we just mentioned, we just talked about that for an hour with the vigneron, with a sense of place, but with authenticity. When you drink the Malbec, you know it's Canadian Malbec, one of the best Malbec in the country. And I see Christian Tortenson
He's saying best Malbec we've tasted, including Mendoza, which says a lot. Christian has traveled a lot.
Especially for wine touring. He's taking clients all over the world. And I know, and he was the first one when we still lived in Calgary.
Oh, yeah, he was saying
to
you got to
put
go
the
to
buzz
Da
in
Silva.
my ear about Da Silva, and especially about the Malbec. Christian Tortenson, I have to say, you were the first one. And I thought I knew everything back then. I thought I was so good. I know what I'm doing. I know about BC wine. No. You, Christian Tortenson, you told me. And I have to confirm today. Now we have a great relationship with Richard. And this Malbec, bang on, if not one of the best, the best Malbec. Listen, we have another great friend, Mark Simpson, who makes an outstanding Malbec with Siren's Call. But this and the Malbec here with Da Silva, the 2018, it's clean and it's pure. Fantastic. With anything on the grill, please bring it on. So the Merlot shows a little rustic. I like a little bit more, it's plummy. There's a little bit more of the graphite, the minerality in that. I love the length of that Merlot, and I also love the complexity. It's not a bomb. It's not a New World California heavy Merlot. No, it is a little bit more old world. It's a little bit more, like I said, there's a little bit more rusticity in that. And I loved it big time. So another 92 points. And my biggest surprise, I would say, probably was the Cap Franc. Because, Cap Franc can be hit and miss for many different reasons. I really have like high expectation for Cap Franc. Often I'm like, yeah, this is good. But this one, I remember tasting it with Rob Amersley, winemaker, owner of Black Market. And I would use Rob's words and saying like, whoa, this is one of the best Cap Franc that I've tasted in many years.
Yeah.
Remember, we were right on the back patio here.
Yeah.
And at the very second, I was like, whoa, I need to pay attention to that. And I sat down and I dig deep into that. It's like, oh my God, really, really good. Black Forest cake, dark cocoa, like roasted red pepper, lots of spice and like the Chinese spice box. There is so much going on in that Cab Franc. So these single varietal reds, all of them were very impressive. So here we are with our outstanding selection.
And then we had the Viognier. That's in the bonus picks.
That's the Isabella.
Oops, Isabella. There's
That's
the Viognier. There's the Viognier.
There you go.
As one of the bonus picks. And we also had, so the Cab Franc was another bonus pick. And then there's this beauty.
Yeah.
So the Legado is kind of like the cream of the crop, right?
The cream of the crop, the best of the best. And talking with Richard, what's coming up in the future? What's their plan? Is there any new thing? But Richard's starting to focus a lot on Pinot Noir, especially on the home site in Naramata. I think Naramata has a very, very, very special terroir for Pinot Noir. And we have, so the cream of the crop, the 2019, this was just bottled a month or so ago, or maybe a little longer, but this is the new flagship of Da Silva. The new focus attention from Da Silva is on Pinot Noir, and this 19 has, using Richard's words, lots of potential. I haven't tasted yet. I was supposed to taste it today.
Live.
But because I can't really get
this is one of the worst sinus infections he's done ever. So
because I can barely, because I really want to give it my best shot. I really want to give it the best description possible. We're going to push that a couple more days. I get my antibiotic here, my medicine. I get better, and I'm going to get live. It might be on Thanksgiving, maybe on the Sunday. Watch for a notification on your phone that Carl's going live. I might give it a try if I feel better. But this is
Carl,
such...
as soon as you taste something, we're going live because I can't wait to taste that.
And
might be like 6 a.m. I don't know.
Who cares? Who cares? But guess what, guys? This is a spectacular lineup. This is a winery that we are so excited about. First, because of the relationship. Second, because of the quality. Third, because of philosophy. For me, the philosophy behind it is just absolutely what I stand for when it's time about the geek inside of me. That's a sense of place. I want to know where the grapes are from, and anyway. So I love that. That's why I'm really attached to Da Silva. So if you're looking for something pretty cool to put in your cellar, boom, Da Silva Vineyards. And then there's a reason why the name of the winery is Da Silva Vineyards and Winery. Vineyards is first. Vineyards come first. And I think if you've listened the beginning of the interview, if you listened the time we had with Richard, it's pretty clear. Vineyards first.
Yeah.
And after that, we'll talk about the winemaking. So, right. Yeah.
And kitchen. They have that amazing kitchen. Best paella in the Okanagan.
Yes, but these shrimp,
the tapas. Oh my gosh.
What's the name again of these spicy shrimp?
Yeah, those huge Argentinian prawns or what have you.
Come on. Piri piri. The piri piri prawns.
And this is broccoli, but I kid you not, the best broccoli I've had in my life.
Like simple. But geez, this is a pepper.
Like a spread or?
Yeah, this is underneath. It's
they bring with fresh bread.
Yeah.
Yeah, the roasted garlic.
Tuna crudo.
Oh, so freaking good. Oh, that's the crew. But yeah, this
the white bean.
My childhood in Romania.
The white bean. This is the white bean and clam. No, this is their clam in there. No, this is just the white bean.
Just the white bean salad, and it's so freaking simple, but it's so freaking good. Like it's amazing.
Yeah,
amazing stuff.
Yeah. Hey, you know what? It's 6:15. I knew it's gonna happen. The day that we bring Richard in alive, I knew we need a 2.5 hour show because it's just too cool to talk to him. But guess what? That was a lot happening last week. A lot happening last week. You know that this lady here was on her own with 3 boys at school
And
and
he
sick.
was in Niagara.
I was flying solo to Niagara for a really, really cool project. We've been consulting with
Very cool.
something extremely cool since the summer. It's called the Niagara Custom Crush Studio that we've been part of. Just like we've seen the idea grow, we saw the concept born. And now they purchased a winery this summer. They purchased Stony Ridge Winery in Jordan, one of the oldest winery in Canada. They have their license since 1982. And now the Niagara Custom Crush Studio bought Stony Ridge Winery to turn into that common facility where up to 12 different wineries or virtual winemaker will make their wine on site. And with the 6,000 square feet of retail space and tasting experience. So I spent the whole week. We launched the project. We had an industry night. We did a couple tours with some of our members from Ontario.
Yes, I even have a picture here. So this was, you guys went with Graham Rennie himself.
So the first tenant at the Niagara Custom Crush Studio, it's Rennie Winery. Rennie Wine, owned by Graham Rennie, is one of the top Appassimento wine in the country. Graham purchased in 1997 this piece of land that you see here. It's me and Graham in his home vineyard, 50 acres on the Beamsville Bench, one of the most sought after piece of land in Ontario, who grows some of the most sought after grapes, but he keeps a small quantity to produce 500 cases a year. He's been making his wine at Malivoire, another really, really like highly regarded, highly awarded winery in Ontario. So Graham made his wine at Malivoire for 10 years, and him and some financial partner have decided to put some big dollars to build that state-of-the-art facility. And now the Niagara Custom Crush Studio, they're not going to operate at Stony Ridge. And
they purchased the Stony Ridge property, and the Stony Ridge Winery still will continue as part of the Crush.
Yeah, and they're going to break ground in December to build a new facility on site. So it was an amazing experience to be part of that all week. And we did 2 tours. Thursday afternoon and Friday afternoon
with Mike LaPlante.
Mike LaPlante was, we had Ron Kennedy and Fiona came for the Friday session. Mike took the day off at work to come down. We did the vineyard tour at Graham's Vineyard, and after that we drove back to the Crush where we tasted the Rennie wines. Tell you one thing, I don't know if you know me, you know how much I love Chardonnay, but that Christine Chardonnay 2017, absolutely incredibly rich and powerful Chardonnay with amazing minerality and like that, that wild ferment that we love so much.
I do. Yes.
Right there.
So
yeah.
And you know what I discovered? So where the Crush is, they actually have a cheese cave where there's 50 kinds of cheeses or something.
Sarah Barker. Sarah's the retail manager there. She had took upon herself a couple of years ago to build one of the best cheese selection in any wineries in Ontario. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah. Oh, Mike remembers the Christines. Nothing like I've ever drank before. That's hopefully a good thing.
A very good thing.
I love it.
We have a cool picture of Mike. Having some of the grapes because we picked some grapes. Yeah. We ate the Chardonnay grapes in the vineyard. And the Christine was one of the first wine tasted when we were back. So you can very relate. You can absolutely make the connection between
the grape
and the wine.
Wow.
So cool. It's really, really unique and special.
That's amazing.
Yeah, what a great time.
So cool.
I also had the chance to have lunch with Sue Ann Staff.
Yes.
Yeah, and I think she knows that how passionate we are about Chardonnay. She sent me home with Chardonnay and some of our new Riesling, some of our new stuff. And a trip in Niagara without seeing our friend Marcel Morgenstern would that it's not possible, right? So I spent the night at no grilled cheese, Mike. This time we went to the very famous Jordan station, the Jordan House. So this is our place when she has enough of the winery. She goes for a pint of beer at Jordan's house. So I had the whole history of the Jordan house. That's funny. I got there. There's 2 or 3 other winemakers there.
Where the winemakers go to drink beer.
Yeah, just winding down and like relaxing a little bit. They are having a tough time out there. There's no grapes. There's a big shortage of grapes. The winter, 2021-2022 winter was extremely harsh. There was some big frost episode all over Niagara, especially Niagara on the Lake. And most of the vineyard lost 70% of their crop for this year. So it's a very tough time for the Niagara wine industry as we speak. And some of the growers are going absolutely bananas, charging like triple the price for the grapes available. So yeah, it's a very challenging, and some of them saying catastrophic years for the industry. But so yeah, so spend time with Marcel. Sorry.
Woo. You're for real sick. Oh no. Do you want a glass of water? Here. I guess not. So yeah, Niagara, like in the Okanagan, we have our own troubles some years. There's the smoke, there's wildfires and things sometimes. And in Niagara, this happened to them this last year with the frost. But we're seeing all kinds of things hearing all kinds of things from different people. So it'll be really interesting to do the vintage report, Carl's Wine Club style, where we want to bring a bunch of winemakers from the different wine regions across the country on here live with us in November to talk about the harvest that just happened, so you know what to expect from those whites and those reds in the coming years.
So what's cool though, hard time right now in Niagara, but you know what's very cool? We're starting to see, no, I just went and had a drink. We're starting to see the 2020 coming in bottles. So
which
the
was
reds,
the vintage of the century.
the 2020 reds are starting to be released. So what's happening?
Shaking the table.
If I go to Niagara and I spend time with my buddy Marcel Morgenstern, that's for sure that I'm coming back home with something pretty crazy.
Yes, and you sure did.
So we had to switch the schedule around because next week, after this week with Da Silva, we're going to have a crazy deal with Bellaterra. And we're going to have 2 of their top 2020 bottling coming out, the Merlot and the Cab Sauv. Oh, no, not 2. 3.
The Cab Franc too?
The Cab Franc too.
Exciting.
So I tasted in barrel twice these varietal. We knew that 2020 is going to be extremely special. We knew from the barrels that these wines are going to be very, very, very unique. They are out. They're ready to be shipped, and we're having we never do that. Marcel said, Carl, we've been dealing with you for 2 years. I want to send a big thank you to your people. So we're going to give them a deal on pre-release. So I'm like, what?
So some of you guys were at our event at the winery at Bellaterra in June, and they did barrel tastings with us, and we tasted these wines before they were released, and people pre-ordered them at a special pre-release price, which was like, I don't know, $4 or $5 off.
$5 off.
Per bottle. So pretty significant. And so I think we're going to extend that same pre-release pricing.
But stay tuned.
To members.
We're going to have Da Silva going on all weekend, because it's Thanksgiving weekend. Monday night. Yeah, should I say Monday night? Not
Monday morning?
No, not Monday. I was about to say Sunday night. But Sunday night is a Ravens game. Ravens are playing the Bengals divisional game. Oof, I'm not sure. Anyway, different conversation, different time. But Sunday or Monday, we're going to have a Bellaterra offer coming. not only the big stuff, we're going to have also some value stuff. So stay tuned for that. It's going to be pretty cool.
Great deal.
Whew.
Football on Sunday. What a surprise. I know. And for Carl to be watching it, like you'd think it's Thanksgiving weekend or something like special going on, right? That's all good. We decided not to go with our flus, not to go infect the rest of my family in Victoria. So we will be here and have plenty of time for football watching if we need to.
There you go. 6:25. I think we're gonna go to we're gonna have to feed the kids.
We are having dinner.
We're having dinner.
Cheers, you guys.
Canadian wine lovers, Carl's Wine Club members, thank you for joining us. It's Da Silva week. Don't miss out. The best story of the Okanagan.
Amazing story.